So welcome, Zach Churchill. Thanks so much for coming. Prior to your new venture in life, you used to be in politics. You were the leader of the Liberal Party here in Nova Scotia. Now you've went on to other ventures. You're doing some consulting work with Sinclair Churchill Consulting. So we're just going to dive a little bit into some of your background, where you grew up. I know we know each other because we're from the same area, but for the audience, I'm sure they would like to know, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit more of your background there.
Cool. Well, yeah, Chris and I grew up in Yarmouth County. Chris on the Argyle line in the Acadian part of the community, and I grew up in town. So people in Wedgeport, Pubnico would call me a townie.
Right. Yeah. John Vo too.
Yeah, me and John Vo were townies, and grew up together. Same. The
Y-Town connection.
Grade. That's right, man. Lobster capital of the country.
Right. I think Barrington argues that they are.
Well, I mean, we're all District 34, right?
Know,
so
right?
we're in the lobster district capital of the country, right?
Yeah.
So
depends who you talk to. People back home take pride in that stuff.
Well, and people don't realize in other parts of the province like how much wealth is generated in our part of the province, right?
Yeah.
And they think like, oh, well, there's nothing going on down there. It's like you don't know.
Quite a bit.
There's tons of industry.
Yeah.
It is again in the whole country, it's the lobster, currently the lobster capital. The majority of lobsters, 30-something% of lobsters exported in Canada are coming out of our neck of the woods, and of course that 50% of our economy in Nova Scotia is seafood. So we punch above our weight.
For sure,
down
man.
Our way.
Yeah. I feel like we're kind of like, I think like Atlantic Canada as a whole, if kind of pre-COVID didn't really have much of a lens over it. And I feel like since then, one of the positives, I guess, of that would have been like people are like, oh, no, there's some stuff going on down there. Like, maybe Halifax is a good place to be, and maybe the rural parts of Nova Scotia are too. But tell me a little bit about what your upbringing was like. What are some of the experience also that's maybe shaped some of your worldviews and kind of led you to who you are today?
I grew up in Yarmouth, grew up with living with my mother primarily. My mother's side's they're Lebanese on that side of the family, so I'm half Lebanese.
Yeah,
so
you said Bashara, right?
Bashara would be my mother's maiden name.
And when would they have come over? Or she?
My grandparents were born here, so I'm third generation Canadian. So unlike most Lebanese in Halifax that came over like post the Civil War in '67.
Okay.
Our family and a lot of the rural Lebanese families, like in Cape Breton and South Shore and Yarmouth, would have come over at the turn of the 20th century. So, the late 1800s or early 1900s.
That's when you guys would have been
That's
over.
when my family came.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
it's always interesting to hear that stuff and when and how and what some of the reasons potentially were for coming. Speaking of that, did she ever talk to you about that? Was it just like a better opportunity than where they were? Like what kind of prompted? I know this was supposed to be about you, but I'm just kind of curious.
It would have been like my great-grandparents that came over. And
right.
I think seeking opportunity was a big part of that. There was turmoil. There was the fall of the Ottoman Empire was happening. So what we call Lebanon now was part of that. They were a Christian family, so there was more kind of political pressure on Christians under the Ottoman Empire, and I think those were driving factors. And they landed in on the East Coast here in New England. St. John, New Brunswick, and Yarmouth.
Okay, that's interesting because I always wondered that, and part of my ignorance, I grew up in a small rural town in our community in Nova Scotia, so I've just kind of got like up to speed on politics and demographics and why people move and migrate from different areas. Do you find and I have a lot of friends that are Lebanese here in the city, mostly made here because we didn't have a huge Lebanese population back home, and then also a little bit isolated being Argyle, not as much there either. Yeah. Do you find that most Lebanese folks that migrated here at the time, like you mentioned, they were Christian? Do you feel like that was a big thing that like the Christians felt like they had to come over because of whatever. I don't even know what government or who was
Yeah,
running
so
the show then.
there was political pressures and conflicts going on,
And then they're like, this doesn't fit what we believe, so we got to go
during the Ottoman period, and I mean there was a civil war in Lebanon in the 60s.
Yeah. Can you just speak, like, just even for my own knowledge, like the Ottoman, I don't have any.
Okay, so the Ottoman Empire would have been kind of a big Middle Eastern Islamic empire that I think they lasted a few hundred years. So Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, like that part of the world and beyond, parts of Northern Africa would have been part of that empire. Yeah.
No parallels between what's going on right now with like Iran and that Islamic regime, or like totally different thing?
Iran may have been. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on these things, but like what in the ancient days would have been like Persia, which is where Iran is now. I think that would have been in the Ottoman Empire. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Someone correct us if we're wrong. Again,
yeah, I'm just looking to learn myself. I don't know.
I'm a lay person too on this stuff, but it is fascinating. I mean, a lot of us don't know like the history of even where our families come from. We know 2 or 3 or 4 generations if we're lucky, but
and call me like a paranoid, but like I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that, like whatever the DNA thing is, and then I'm like, then they're like, but then they have your DNA, and I was like, well, it's not like I'm not going to go out and do any crime, but it's just like I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to catch you and all those people you killed.
Right, I know, right? All those bad podcast guests.
Yeah. I've never done it either. But
no, it always interests me because like I just think that like Dad's English, Mom's Acadian. I know I got some Métis. My buddy Wasp, oh man, when I told him that, he's just made fun of me so hard because like obviously don't look anything close to native or Métis. Métis, for those that don't know, means mixed. And then on like my mom's side, Grand-mère was a Muse, and then the Muses. If you ever see the Muses, they're much more darker complexion for the most part. Mind you, my brother's long-term girlfriend's pretty light-skinned, but anyway, he just like makes total fun of me that he's like, you're not Métis.
But the history between the Acadians and the Mi'kmaq in Nova Scotia is
very
really
intertwined,
really important.
Yeah,
right? So there is a lot of mixed blood. French in the Mi'kmaq communities, Mi'kmaq in the Acadian communities. And it was a really important historic relationship that was very cooperative and
for sure.
And I heard, Trevor Murphy, he's from down there. He's really involved in music and.
I want to say I do, but I can't bring a face to that name.
He grew up next to me in town, actually.
Okay.
But he's francophone, and he organizes a little plug for him in Yarmouth, the Ultramarine Music Festival that's going to be happening in Yarmouth. Happened last year. It's going on again this summer. He gave the great, those land acknowledgement statements that have become formalized with a lot of events. Trevor gave the most practical and meaningful one I've ever heard, because he said, my ancestors, my family members wouldn't have survived here without the relationship with the Mi'kmaq. We wouldn't have, learned how to live, in a way that we were going to be able to sustain ourselves. So it was really, really nice. So it is of course you probably have some mixed blood in you for sure.
Yeah. I mean, just to expand a little bit more on that, like Mom at one time, my uncles and stuff went and did the whole tree lineage, and they're like, oh, maybe it'd be good for everybody to get it. So we all did the thing, and just to rewind, so the Muses. So I just have like enough to say that at some point, I don't even know how many generations removed, but I just have enough to be able to say that I am like a Métis, like, so it means mixed blood essentially. So, and then obviously Grand-mère married Apache, and then it kind of just went from there. So, yeah.
You got to start a genealogy podcast next.
Yeah, right. That's it. But I was always curious to see, like, what on Dad's side, like, where would they have come from, but anyway, that's something I'll have to dive into if I dare put my DNA out there.
I'll do it with you if you do it.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Deal.
We'll be in it together.
Deal. At what point did you realize, I know you kind of breezed over it there when we were talking earlier, but like at what point did you realize, like, through your schooling, your education, like When did you realize like politics was something you're interested in?
On mom's side of the family, most of my uncles, cousins are in like public service, teachers.
Yeah.
My grandfather would have been a town councilor. So I guess like that public kind of service mindset's been it's been kind of in me for a while. But it was when I got involved in like student politics. And was involved in some lobbying and initiatives that we actually, convinced some government people to make some changes to the student loan program. And I really liked it, and I got a bit of taste of how you can have kind of serious impact in the political process. And I really liked that. And so I did student politics for a couple of years at St. Mary's. And then I was doing kind of public policy work in Ottawa for a number of years. And then the NDP government of the day cut the ferry in Yarmouth, which you would know about.
Yeah, that was always a controversial topic. It was like, we need it, we don't need it, it's too expensive. Where are we getting the funding?
There was a recent, so anyway, they cut the service. I was not in politics at the time. I was doing public policy work.
Because would that be when the Blue Nose was operating?
The Blue Nose was cut previously. This would have been the cat.
So when the cat first come and the cut.
It had been going on but the cat had been, I was bartending at Rutter's and back when the cat was doing 2 runs a day, and very important to the economy of the province, not just our area. Yeah. So that happened. We lost half of our hotels, motel rooms overnight. And I got a bit incensed about it, and I went back home and I ran for the Liberals. We defeated the NDP in the next election, and we brought that service back. And recently, the Conservative provincial government completed an economic analysis, which pointed out how there's an incredible return to the taxpayers and the economy of Nova Scotia by investing a little bit in that ferry. It brings in about 40 to 60 million in spending a year. And
in our little crevice of the province.
Well, they don't stay in Yarmouth, right? They come into Yarmouth. We get a major benefit because our tourism economy is really based on the U.S. being the closest port to New England, which is one of the biggest tourism markets in the world. But they land in Yarmouth and they travel throughout Atlantic Canada.
Really?
And they spend twice as much time in the province and twice as much money as people that drive in through other areas. Interesting.
Because, you always heard that, oh, no, it's a massive benefit to the province. And then people's like, oh, it's not worth the money, and da-da-da-da. And then it's like, okay, well, and to your point, it's a huge, actually, benefit. But, like, then you look, at the ferries that come in through here, and you're like, oh, well, if we have that many ferries coming through the port of Halifax, like the little ferry that shuttles a few people in through from Maine to Yarmouth can't make that much of an impact, but apparently it does.
We get more than, so the cruise ships are important, but these people are coming off for a couple hours and getting back on.
Right. These guys are exploring for weeks and weeks.
For 2 weeks on
Maybe
average.
They got their RV, you see it all the time, camping. Like me and my wife used to be huge campers, and we got the baby now, so hopefully when she gets a bit older, we bought a cottage, but I still like to show her like the ropes camping and stuff. But like, you'd go to a campsite, and I think like at least every, just pulling this out of my hat, like it's not accurate, but I'd say every 10th campsite it'd be a U.S. plate or somebody from away from somewhere.
And half the Americans that like visit the like South Shore come through Yarmouth.
Yeah,
and they also come through Digby.
And we used to have a big American presence. I remember like talking with my grandpa. He's not around anymore, but he's like my favorite person like in the world, like still to this day. I used to go up. I could throw a rock and hit his house from my house. And he'd be, oh, yeah, that's an American fellow. He bought that place, bought this place. They buy these obscure things. One guy bought a place on an island, never come. Like, it's still there. Like,
we've got family connections. I've got family in Boston. They used to come over every single year when I was growing up. And there's a lot of family connections, too. Like,
to your point, like I don't know if it'd be like second or third cousin twice removed. I don't even know how all that stuff works. But anyway, I can't even remember his real name, but they call him Buzzy. And he was... He was working out in, he was actually from Woods Harbor way, and then his mom...
Woods Harbor.
Woods Harbor, right? Bub? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I just called a guy from down there the other day, and I took me a second to get the accent back. Like, when you're immersed in it, it's like, so it's like talking to a Bayman from Newfoundland when I worked for Unilever. I had a rep out that way. And it took me a couple of weeks to get like the lingo. I'm like,
Yeah.
When it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're not getting exposed to it, you kind of can't link it up.
And there's no shortage of interesting accents and dialects in Nova Scotia.
Buddy. Yeah. And I mean, from Newfoundland and overseas and, wherever. So they've all kind of landed and spread out, and there's a bit of a twang everywhere.
Yeah, it's great. So that's what pulled me into provincial politics. I left Ottawa, I came home, I ran, and then managed to serve a 14 and a half year career in provincial politics, elected representing Yarmouth. And then I got smoked. I led our party in the last election. We got smoked, and I lost my seat locally. And
shoot,
well, it happens, man. It's you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Fair enough. But I remember one of my earliest memories of you, and I think I mentioned this to you a couple of times, is I believe I graduated in 2007. Got to check the ring.
I graduated in 2007 too.
Yeah. What? From university, maybe.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You graduated from high school.
Yeah. Because you were on the stage. You shook everybody's hand, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
At our high school graduation at Parlement.
Yeah.
Would that be correct? Am I remembering right?
I may have been there. No, I wasn't elected in 2007.
No? You had less gray hair, too.
A lot less gray hair, yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. It's all in the face, though.
Right?
It started to creep up, actually.
That's okay, man.
Yeah.
I have no hair.
It's the I'll be following you on that too.
Yeah.
But it's the price of staying alive long enough, man. You turn gray.
That's it.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm down. People are like, "Oh, go to Turkey, get some hair." I was like, "Nah, I'm good. I just own it. I'm just owning it."
Looks good on you.
Thanks, man. People say I have a good shaped head for being bald.
You're lucky,
right?
Yeah.
It's no oblong, weird dents or something. Maybe. I've hit my head a few times playing hockey, so I was lucky there's no dents, but maybe some damage in there somewhere. But I guess kind of going back to the politics, like I think traditionally, like we've been a pretty liberal area for a fair bit of consecutive years. What was some of your how did you land in the Liberal Party? Was there a decision-making process, or did you just have the seat, or what kind of called you into championing that for that party? Was there any specific selection process, or was it just kind of the right fit at the right time, and you kind of just went for it?
Chrétien made me. I loved Jean Chrétien.
I think he was a great prime minister.
Yeah,
I wasn't with it and keeping it as enough tabs, but from what I could tell, he did a pretty good job.
He came to Yarmouth. I got to shake his hand, listen to him, give a speech. I was in junior high, so I really liked him. And then when I got interested in politics and started thinking more about my own kind of political philosophy, and what mattered to me, the Liberal Party is the best fit for where I'm at. I think, like Chrétien, like Stephen McNeil, like Mark Carney, care very much about the kind of economics and financial situation. And we've got to take, if you have a chance to govern, you got to take all those things really, really seriously.
For sure.
But I'm also, probably on the progressive side when it comes to social policy and that sort of stuff. So I'm what people would call kind of a centrist. And
I would say that I was too.
Yeah.
I kind of got moved over a little bit.
Yeah, I know. We've had chats. So this has been an easier chat than the last one.
Yeah.
But in Nova Scotia, you mentioned kind of the politics in Nova Scotia. All three parties here, like the NDP, the Progressive Conservatives, the Liberals, everyone kind of crowds around the center of the political spectrum here. So there's not major, and I think this is a good thing, not major ideological divides.
Just to be fair for the audience, a lot of my more right-leaning views are mostly financial economics. I'm all about everybody doing good and helping people, and just I guess there's a bit of I know you say they're looking out for the financial thing, but I guess we can get into a little bit of that.
But you and I probably have a lot of similar views on those things. I think.
Yeah, I think we do briefly. Yeah, for sure.
But I free markets, capitalism are good things.
Absolutely.
In my opinion,
for sure. Obviously, open a consulting business. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like people like rage about capitalism. And yeah, there's obviously issues with it, but it's led to the period of the most rapid technological advances and wealth generation that the world's ever seen, So
I think it's human nature. We want to make things. I don't know. I feel like we're always looking to do stuff or get better or do better things.
We've done pretty good as a species, going from
sticks and rocks
to
AI and
travel.
right
Yeah,
heat pumps.
It's been a good run.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Yeah. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Like, what were some of the stuffs when you got into politics that maybe surprised you in terms of like maybe your level of impact and that you thought you had versus maybe like didn't quite match up your expectations? Like, was there anything that were like, oh wow?
I mean, the
positive or negative?
See, the positive is I loved the kind of scalable impact you could have being in politics. You have the opportunity to kind of help people on an individual basis in your constituency. And then particularly when you're in government, you have this ability to pass laws, which are foundational, obviously, to our society, vote on budgets. And I had the great opportunity to serve in a bunch of different cabinet positions as Minister of Health, Education, Municipal Affairs, Natural Resources. So you get to, deploy resources and do things that can really have an impact, right? So, I was the Minister of Education when we brought in the pre-primary program. My kids got to go through that, and it's worked out really well, helped a lot of families. The first kind of negative, like, holy cow moment was when like people turned on you. I'm a mostly easygoing guy, love getting along with people, and when you're in government, you got to make decisions.
Yeah.
As the current government's experiencing right now, you can't always make everybody happy.
It's never the case.
And so we had to take some, under Stephen McNeil in particular, we took some strong positions on the financial side of the equation, and he really cared, and our cabinet cared about managing the books to the best of our ability, and that leads you to some conflicts. So then, when you impact people's kind of pay or program spending that they rely on, things can get real personal in politics. So having people that I knew that supported me, I was friends with, or acquaintances with, that got mad at me, and the first time it happened, and question my kind of character and integrity as a result of like their feelings. That was a tough experience to taste that part of politics when I first had to go through it. And then of course you realize, well, people have a right to feel how they feel, think what they want to think, and I had to kind of develop a different perspective to better manage myself when dealing with those kind of conflicts, right? So,
well, let's lean into that a little bit. Like, what were some of the things that you used to try and combat that? Obviously, if you have friends that you had relationships with, and now they're coming at you and be like, "Oh, Zach, like, what are you doing? Like, I can't support you if you're doing this." Like, obviously, like, nobody likes anybody being upset with them or like thinking that they don't have their best interest in mind. So did you have any like tools or mechanisms that you kind of tried to put in place that kind of tried to mitigate some of that, like, negative, stress and cortisol? And like, I'm sure it's not easy to manage day to day when you think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then people are like, no, you're not for us.
Yeah,
like,
and the cortisol does pick up over time.
Yeah, man.
So I mean, my approach was always to communicate to the best of my ability, explain the reasons why these decisions were being made, listen to people when they were upset.
Do you find people listen to you though? Like when you know what I mean? Like I find like politics, like you got to listen, but a lot of times people aren't interested in hearing what you want to say because they've already made up their mind.
That's true, and I think there's a big difference with communicating like through social media, and when you're face to face with people.
Social media is the devil. I think this stuff's good, but some of the other stuff we could do with it.
I thought I could have kind of a reasonable dialogue on there, and you can with a lot of people, but then you realize, okay, like
yeah, well, the mob's gonna come.
And in those moments, it's like doesn't matter. So I did a lot more kind of meeting with groups. Like when I was education minister, we made some big changes. So I went out and met with teachers and parents across the province. I went in front of a 3,000 group of teachers at the exhibition park. I got booed, so I would,
Getting booed must suck, man.
it wasn't fun, man, but if you have the right perspective on it and, can take it on the chin, it can be okay. So people also, I also got some respect from kind of facing people face to face, which was, I loved that experience, to be honest, where you can like sit down eye to eye, talk to people about your disagreements, and also hear like what's going on in their heads and why they're thinking the way they're thinking. So I would try to get in front of as many people kind of face to face in those moments as much as possible, or communicate through the media and the other channels I have. Because someone said to me once, you run towards angry people, not away from them. So I never forgot that, and I always tried to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach because, I mean, you don't got to convince the people that are already with you. You gotta make everybody see it, and that open dialogue with people that potentially have different views. Like, I think that's important.
We live in a democracy. Like,
well, that's the only way. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't just be like, "Wow, you don't believe what I believe, so you're bad," and then full stop.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of different people, and I think people that think a little bit differently, they're still needed because it's additional perspective. If everybody thought the same, I don't think we'd get any real advancement.
I mean, we're not going to get, and like, we never will.
My wife's totally opposite to me. That's what works.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
Like not just like she's a woman, I'm a man or whatever. Like, well, sorry, I shouldn't maybe get into that. But like, we all have division of tasks. Like she's good at certain things at home.
Yeah.
I'm good at certain things at home.
Yeah.
So I do the things I'm good at. She does the things I'm good at.
But
she's good at.
There is a problem, like,
And she reels me in because I'm like, "Rah, this is how I want." And she's like, "Well, maybe we should think about it like this." So it's kind of like politics at home.
yeah,
a little bit.
And it works. So,
So there's no voting. Usually the woman wins. Just kidding.
Now that we've got 2 kids, we can do votes in the house.
Right. Do you have boys or girls?
And I'm outvoted every time. 2 girls. 2 girls.
So you don't win anyway.
Rarely, yeah. But it is a problem in our kind of politics right now where it's so like frothing at the mouth and people are living in their own worlds of information. So
that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, people like.
Am I getting fed real stuff? And then what are the people on the other side getting fed? Because sometimes I look at both and then I try and make sense of everything, and I'm like, it's no fucking wonder everybody's all up in arms with each other.
And yeah, so there's like different information diets that people are on. Social media is going to give you what you like and not a counter
or even what it thinks you like
opinion. Exactly. Yeah. So you and I, our social media feeds are probably different.
Probably a little bit.
And that is certainly impacting kind of the like common reality that we need to have reasonable conversations
and
with
move
each
forward.
other.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem right now, I think. But we can keep working through it, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned during your time in government?
Learned a lot about how like the system of government works, and the importance of policy when it comes to decision making. But personally, it's like, there's like the lessons that kind of stick out in my head are like if I think of the stuff that has stuck with me, it's, Tim Wood, this mink farmer from Renderton in Yarmouth.
Yeah, mink farms are a thing back home.
Yeah, and they're having a hard time right now. He's recently passed away, unfortunately. Lovely guy. He gave me a great piece of advice. He said, you're going to see the same people on the way down that you saw on the way up. That was very important advice. So, a constant reminder, however important, how important you think you are in politics or in business or whatever, at the end of the day, you got to treat people with respect and kindness.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm glad he told me that, because that kind of always helped me stay grounded when dealing with people, and you not let your ego get a hold of you, not let it impact how you're talking to people or dealing with people. I'm not saying I was always perfect at that.
Yeah, I could definitely attest. I'm definitely not perfect either.
No,
So
I certainly
make some mistakes.
I made a lot of
knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah. But anyway, just remembering that was really important. Another kind of important thing that I'll take with me is, you've got to you got to care more about your duty to people in kind of elected office and in politics more than their opinion of you. So those were kind of key things that were important to me. Helped me keep kind of proper perspective, particularly during moments of high stress and those sorts of things.
Yeah, but definitely probably a lot of high stress moments in a role like that. Yeah, man. Did you feel that, like, obviously getting into politics, like, I've often thought about it too. And then depending on who you talk to, it's like, well, I want to change, make positive change and fix this and do that. And then you get kind of, because I got a few buddies that are kind of really ingrained and they feed me a lot of stuff that maybe influences some of my thought process, and maybe that's not the best way. But what I'm trying to get around to is, like, did you feel that you actually had the level of influence you wanted to have, or did you feel like you only had some? Like, because, like, people are like, oh, well, if you go in there and try and, like, kind of flip things upside down and change the way things are going, like, they'll kind of just, like, be like, oh, well, we got to get this guy out of here. He's not doing what we want.
I mean, I was able to have some influence. Like, now I worked for Stephen McNeil in government and then Ian Rankin. So, my influence went as far as they agreed with me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you had to have kind of some people in your stable to kind of get everything going.
You've like, when you're so the cabinet, for like your viewers, this is kind of like the executive board of
a business.
Yeah, in government.
Yeah.
So they're the ones where the prime minister or the premier are working with their cabinet, and their decisions are coming to the cabinet table, like a board table. And
board of directors.
You got to make decisions. So
They're voting on stuff, passing stuff.
Exactly. So I had privilege to kind of have influence in that room just by being there, and I would always try to inform myself on stuff as best I could, so that if I was going to talk about something, I was going to make sense. I did. I mean, I never had universal control or.
Yeah, of course. Then we'd be dictators.
That's
right?
sort of that. Well, that can happen though.
Yeah, for sure.
That can happen. But I had like a really satisfactory, personally, level of influence on decisions, and got to, be in senior cabinet positions, doing kind of big changes in education in the healthcare system. Overall, man, it was a really, I loved the experience. Even looking back, some of the most stressful periods are the most satisfying to look back on, because it's usually when we're making big changes or doing something different. That's when people kind of can get worked up the most. And
the tough stuff's what makes you grow too. So if you're not going through any tough stuff, you're probably not really growing. So
or you're not making any, or you're not doing anything.
Right. Yeah. There's that too. Yeah. So you're not going through hard stuff. Yeah, probably maybe you're not doing the right things or not doing anything at all. So definitely agree there. So it sounds like you're pretty content with the level of impact that you had at your time in government is what you're saying.
So fortunate. I wanted to be in politics when I was 20, 21 years old. I kind of, was thinking that's what I want to do. The average MLA in Nova Scotia serves 7 years. I got to serve 14 and a half. And I got to do it at kind of the, I led the provincial party in opposition. I was never premier. And that's okay. I had a good run and worked on some really kind of fun things. Got to expand, cancer treatment options in the province and expand them into Western Nova Scotia.
Good.
You get to do things that
change some lives.
That can, yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And now in the consulting world, I mean, I wouldn't be able to be as valuable to clients right now had I not had all that experience either.
Of course. It's good lateral kind of shift, because you can use that to leverage, guiding people in other aspects of their business and whichever channels they're looking to grow.
Yeah, helping them deal, I'm primarily doing government relations, lobbying work for people, for businesses that have to deal with government regulations or have a project or need funding.
Cool.
So it's about leveraging, the network I've built over the years, and the knowledge, or at least the ability to kind of acquire the knowledge to inform the business's decision.
Cool. I got a few more liberal or political related questions.
Yeah.
I want to drive right into your business stuff, but I don't want to kill you with all that stuff because I know it's the thing of the past.
I don't care, man. I still love talking about politics.
You still love? Okay,
Yeah.
you still love it? Okay, well, we'll run with it. What does it mean for you to be a liberal?
Well, it means that I'm kind of in the center of the political spectrum. I'm allergic to the poles of the political spectrum where you kind of see the most extreme viewpoints. I don't like that space. I'm not super ideological. So being a liberal means, I'm in the center. I try to be more practical, try to care about the economy and finances, but also look at the other, social challenges, environmental challenges that we have, and be a force for good on that side of the equation too.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very reasonable perspective for sure. And where do you feel like the Liberal Party of Nova Scotia kind of differs a little bit from the direction that the federal party has went in a little bit? And like, how did we get there? And do you find that although, I would call the traditional Liberal Party of the past was more in the center, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like everything's kind of shifted over a little bit more left. Like, do you find that there's much of a disconnect, I guess? Because, from a guy
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's I think the party under Carney has shifted
back to the center.
Back to the center. So, I'm kind of more of a traditional liberal in my political philosophy. Again, Chrétien was my big influence growing up. Paul Martin, these guys and their governments are what pulled me in and got me interested in the party. But certainly, Prime Minister Trudeau definitely, leaned more to the left side of the spectrum and the more, progressive side of the Liberal Party.
What do you think drove that? Like, was it just like the overall temperature of the country, or like?
So I think a number of things. I think that's where he was at genuinely.
Just like that's where you feel like he was.
Yeah, I think he was sincere to his political beliefs. I've heard him refer to himself as a social activist.
Okay.
Right? I don't refer to myself as that.
Yeah, because that's talking a little bit on the closer to the extreme stuff.
So
right?
I think, not necessarily.
I wouldn't say extreme,
but I mean, social activism can be, but
closer,
not
further away from the center, I guess.
Usually, yeah. Or it certainly can be. So I think he was there, like, genuinely as a person. I also think the politics of the day favored that. So he had to build a political coalition to take on Harper. Jack Layton had passed away, so the NDP under Mulcair did not have.
There's no power there.
Well, Layton probably could have made a run at being prime minister. I mean, he was ahead of the Liberals when we had Ignatieff. So I also think there was some political calculation in building a coalition that would take support from the NDP because, I mean, left of center voters to the far left didn't like Harper. Harper never really scared me. I like, he was economic focused. There's certain things.
Some people use the term that he was the greatest prime minister we've had, but again, is that coming from the people in his stable, or is that the overall consensus of people?
Depends what you care about.
Country?
It depends what you care about, right? So, like, I wouldn't say that, but like as a conservative prime minister, I respected him. He was economic focused. He also kind of kept his thumb on the radicals in their party when it came to social policies and stuff like that, which I respected. Certainly didn't agree with everything. Like, that his government didn't seem to care about like the statistics or the sciences as much. But whatever. Overall, I think I've got no problem with him. But anyway, the kind of mood of the country of the day. There was a coalition on the left that could defeat Harper, and so Trudeau, I think, leaned into that.
And that's how they got it.
Yeah. And then they never came back, never came back to the center He was more of a value-based leader, and I think that works until people have pocketbook issues and are struggling economically. And then people have less of a kind of a stomach for listening to value-based speeches and stuff like that when they're having a harder time in their own lives. So that eventually, I think, became a big issue for Prime Minister Trudeau.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just talk a little bit about the state of Canada today, I guess. And, you know, I grew up through the 90s, went to university through the early 2000s, graduated in 2011. And, you know, I'm a real estate agent, so I see people struggling to buy homes and afford things. And then you got like Nova Scotia Power, for some reason, wants rate increases, and they can't even keep our information safe, and our power outages are kind of like it blows like a little bit of wind and they're out. Then, you know, Halifax Water kind of wants more money, and then the province or the municipality wants more tax money, and it's like, guys, like I went to McDonald's the other day. I remember the day you could go get a double Big Mac meal, Diet Coke, whatever, $8.99. I went there the other day because I'm a sucker for McDonald's. I know it's not good for you, but just one of my things.
My kids love it.
Yeah.
So I eat more of it now too.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, you got to live, right? I got it was actually double quarter pounder and a junior chicken. I shouldn't have got the junior chicken, but I did. A meal, just a large pop, $20. You can't even eat bad for cheap now. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, life seems to feel a lot harder than it did 10 years ago. And what do you feel like the biggest drivers are for that? Was it because of the value-based kind of political ideology that we kind of, you know, got away from ourselves there? Or like, you know, because I bought my house in 2014 for $212,000. My house today is worth $550,000.
Yeah.
You know, grocery prices are through the roof, and I got a whole other opinion on that. Like the grocery people, I don't think they're for the people. They're very bottom line driven, and I've seen it, you know, in the consumer goods industry. They talk that they're all about community, but they're all about money. And I don't think the level of inflation versus the food increase prices really match up.
Well, I mean, they got stung for you know, price fixing too.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't think that's not happening? Like Canada Bread isn't the only one.
You know,
I'm sure.
So I
don't have any basis to make that claim, but
so we have certainly been through, and I mean, I'm glad I bought my house when I did too. You know, so we certainly have been in an inflationary environment, and I mean, I'm not an economist, so.
Right.
Whoever knows better than me, you know, correct us in the comments or whatever, however
also,
people communicate with you. Right. But it seems that, you know, the situation with COVID played a big factor. The economies were shut down. There was a lot of like money printing. Major, you know, public dollars were infused into.
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
How did you feel about being the lockdowns? How did you feel about? Do you feel like that was something we needed to do, or do you think it was something we could have did better?
So I think so. Anyway, I think that government policy, the spending, shutting the economy down, and then kind of infusing the economy with public money, essentially printing money, certainly had an impact on
like
the inflationary environment. But it also like stopped people from going under,
right?
And kept businesses going, and you know, I think saved a lot of people too. But yeah, there is this inflation hangover that's come out of that, and it happened very rapidly. Now, in terms of the lockdowns, so I mean, I can look at it in retrospect now, right? And I think the big kind of political tension in that moment is really understandable because you have a legitimate tension between people's personal freedoms, the mobility to move around, to operate their businesses.
That's when you're like stamping all over my stuff.
So that's a real thing. And then you have the kind of the issues that drove those decisions, which was public health and hospitals being overrun And, like a lot of people, more people dying if you didn't do these measures. So the jurisdictions that didn't do the shutdowns had, about twice as many people that passed away from COVID or from not being able to access healthcare in a moment of need, heart attack, car accident, whatever. So, the factors that drove those public policy decisions was public health, and a big factor, the most important factor, was how much the hospitals could take. The hospitals were getting overrun. I was health minister during the fourth wave or something, and I mean they had, they'd mocked up, and not to pull your viewers back to all this kind of stuff that is in the rear view now, but we were looking at epidemiological models, so how many people are going to get sick, that had our hospitals getting overrun. So not enough beds, not enough space. They were looking at having, hospitals set up in community halls and stuff like this. So that's a very scary situation for governments who are in charge of healthcare systems.
For sure.
But leads to, I think, a reasonable tension between people around, listen, what is this, a dictatorship? You telling me I can't leave my home? And
I got real upset with that, and I'll be honest. When Tim told us we couldn't go in the woods, I was pretty pissed off about that too.
And so, and rightfully, I think people, when their governments are
I called his office. If he doesn't know my name, man, he's not listening to his voicemails.
And I think anytime, for whatever reason, a government's going to affect the rights of people, that should lead to some tension, and there should be some people that question that. Absolutely.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But it was I get it in retrospect, because it was like you've got this public health imperative to make really drastic decisions to try and save lives and to try to preserve hospital capacity, and then you've got people that are like, fuck you, you're telling me I got to stay in my house? I didn't like that either, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of at the heart of the conflict over that, and the reasons those decisions were made.
That's probably most of the inflationary issues that we've had, and then obviously, then all of a sudden the Atlantic bubble, everybody, let's go there. That's the safest place, and it drove up everything. The immigration went up.
You've got immigration going up. You've got
interest rates went down to try and save us from the recession.
Scarcity of housing supply. Housing pressure. You've got fuel prices. Going up for global reasons. They're also taxed here in Canada. So you have kind of all this conflagration of a bunch of factors that led to some pretty rapid inflation.
Do you want to go down a rabbit hole?
Sure, man.
What do you make of the Epstein files that say COVID was a hoax and was planned since 2015?
So I mean, I
did you see that? Do you believe it?
I didn't. I don't think that's the case. I mean,
I don't think any of that shit they put out is true. I think that whole Epstein thing's a smokescreen for something else.
It might be. Like here's what I know about the Epstein files is you've got rich, powerful people that, were involved in
weird shit,
sex trafficking, essentially. And House of Cards has kind of collapsed around them.
It seems like everybody's more concerned with the price of gas.
Well, there's a lot of people that do care. It's interesting because it's in Trump's base where the majority of people are that really care about like the Epstein stuff, right? And it's been interesting to see him kind of play it the way he has down there. And you see in other jurisdictions, like in the UK, people are getting arrested. Even a former prince, like son of the Queen.
Right.
And like there's not other than Epstein, of course, and Maxwell that got arrested in the States, like there's been no other rich and powerful people that have been implicated that have taken down.
Eh?
No. Yeah. So I think Jon Stewart's done some great, I like him. Like Jon Stewart's done some great commentary about the kind of privileges of a billionaire class that can get away with a lot because they're rich and powerful and get away with some pretty heinous stuff. And, the rest of us that
we're just
aren't in that circle.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the big takeaway for me from the Epstein stuff. And I think it's gonna harm Trump. It's hurting him already.
For sure.
Yeah. With his base too. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Because obviously they associate him with those people because he's part of that upper crust billionaire status, whatever. But anyway, we don't have to talk too much more about him. What do you think Canada's doing right now to get us out of this funk? Like, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see things maybe not getting as affordable as it was when we bought our homes? But like, I often think about my daughter now. It's like, am I going to have to hustle my ass off just to make sure she has a house when I die? Like, or can I hustle and be confident that even though, you know, I have stuff to leave her, that she can still on her own amass some form of success or whatever that looks like? Because, like, you know, we all got sold kind of the Canadian dream, and, you know, kind of like the same as the American dream. You work real, you know, we grew up the same place. And Dad always said, and Grant too, if you work real hard, you'll always have a good job, and you'll be fine. And like, I find like now it's like you can work 3 jobs as hard as you want, and it's really hard to get ahead. And I'm just wondering, like, what's your future outlook for our kids?
I mean, I remain kind of hopeful. I think
well, you have to.
There's a lot of challenges right now, and I think we are seeing a big kind of divide, like in wealth. Those of us that own property, that own assets, and that purchase those things before, like in real estate, before the big inflation kind of hit, right? So you just mentioned, you know,
because you got a lot of people sitting pretty happy, and then you got a lot of people that are like, holy fuck.
So, and you've got this kind of generational divide right now who think very differently about these things. You've got, you know, the kind of property owner class, which you and I are a part of. I just got a 2018 right before it went crazy.
Yeah. Good for you.
And then you've got you know, younger people coming up that don't own these assets, that are worried about ever being able to afford them. That are also dealing with, you know, rents that have gone up a lot too.
Unemployment.
I mean, talk about inflation. I mean, go to the movies now,
buddy. we used to love. We would go to the movies every other week, man. It was a kind of our little date thing. We just go and do our thing and maybe grab a bite to eat, and it was great. I'm complaining about McDonald's prices. I haven't even been, like, last time I went, I think it cost me and Caitlin like over $60.
I go with the kids. The 4 of us go. It's 90-something bucks.
We did the D-box seats. Do you guys have that in Yarmouth where they like move and like vibrate and whatever?
No.
I think it was $100.
So
for 2 of us.
So you've got this real kind of, I think people are rightfully worried about where this thing's going to go. I do think in real estate you're starting to see it plateau a bit.
We softened up a little bit. Like, market's still busy, but like, you know, it's kind of feeling a bit more balanced.
And I think of, like, you know, my father would have talked to me about, you know, the interest rates he paid in the 80s to start a business, and he was in real estate.
But they were high then.
So things are always going to keep changing, and nothing's ever going to be the same, I don't think, right? So you've got, you know, different pressures in each decade. You know, in the 80s, interest rates people were paying 20% interest in their mortgages.
My uncle was telling me he built a brand new house right next to my grandmother, and he was just like getting choked out in interest.
Right. So at that time, people were like, oh my God, is everything going to be okay? You know, then
it did.
Things evened out. You know, now we've had these major kind of inflationary factors. You've also have disruptive technology like AI. We don't entirely know what's going to happen.
It's a good tool, but who knows?
Work-wise,
keep a lid on it tight.
Well, and a lot of people say it could impact like white-collar jobs, doctors, lawyers, accountants, coders are being impacted right now, right? So to your point about you know, the plan is to put all this time, money, and energy into getting degrees and specialties, and that, you know, these things can be blown up. So there's always this kind of churn and changes, and we just have to keep managing the best we can individually and as a society to, you know, adapt to them. And these are the challenges that, like, you know, governments are going to have to deal with when they're regulating AI, when they're looking at impacts to the workforce, and the economy, and they're big challenges, and nobody really knows where the stuff's going. So the stuff I like that the current I like Carney a lot. I'm vocally supportive of him. I'm also a partisan still. But
what do you mean by a partisan? Sorry.
Like a member of a party.
Right.
So I'm still,
you're still registered.
I still associate with the Liberal Party.
Sure.
So back to your question, I like that he is focused on our resources. In Canada, we are a resource-rich country. we can develop those resources in sustainable, environmentally.
Why do you feel he's not like getting on board with the pipeline through BC with Danielle?
So he's supportive of it.
I just heard that was like kind of like yeah, we're going to do it, but we're not kind of going to do it, but we're going to tell you to do it because we don't want Alberta to separate.
They are. I think he wants it, and they are
because the mayor there, or the premier in BC was pretty vocal that he's not putting a pipeline.
So there's where the resistance is. It's not in the federal government right now.
It's with him.
It's in BC with the current government and Indigenous nations in BC.
You don't see an upside for everybody on that, like because we got to bring it through their land. Like, is that the kind of the hurdle? Like,
I support the pipeline. I think. Look what's happening with Iran right now. Prices are going up for fuel.
And Venezuela.
Right. So.
But that one was bad. This one's apparently good, depending on who you talk to. I don't know.
It all is what it is. We don't control what.
Trump bad for Venezuela, not so bad for Iran. I was just talking to a guy from Iran downstairs.
Yeah.
Family out there.
And there's going to be different opinions on that depending on what side of that.
He's like mixed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were living under a pretty oppressive theocracy there for a long time.
And I don't pretend to understand. Like, I have no real understanding. I just know what I get fed.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I've got mixed thoughts on it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I know that it seems like it's going to really impact, and if it goes on a long time, it could really impact like fuel prices. And maybe this does create a great opportunity for Canada to get our bitumen or whatever it is to market. So I like that he's resource focused. This is where, our wealth is. It's in the ground. It's in our waters.
Couldn't agree more.
It's in our trees. So I'm working with clients in the resource space, and who are encouraged with some of his initiatives. I also like that he is trying to diversify. We're never going to replace an American trading relationship. They're our neighbors, and our whole economy's been built to trade with them. But I do like that he is focused on diversifying the trade markets for our country as much as we can. Also recognizing that just gives us kind of a little more leverage when we're dealing with the U.S.
For sure. I think it's important to definitely diversify, like how would you say? I'm losing my train of thought here. We got to get away from like how much we need them, or we got to
at least blunt it a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like we maybe a little bit too reliant on certain countries, like for our medicine. Like a lot of that stuff comes out of China, all the raw goods, all the and computer chips and CPU. And what I guess that's the same thing. So I mean we and I just kind of you talk to different people. It's like America's bad. We got to get away from America. But it's like, guys, like we can't just like rebuild everything overnight. Number one, and then if we're getting everything from Europe or overseas, like we look at the price of diesel lately. Everybody's only concerned with the gas. Everything's coming over on a ship fueled by diesel. It's getting transported by diesel, and then another sidebar is like, if Carney's doing all the good stuff, like what about this carbon stuff? Why can't we just drop this like carbon neutral? What's the whole? I don't understand the whole direction for that and carbon credits and different things. And then you kind of, if you read his book that he wrote on values, like I don't know if I really agree that that's the best thing for like Canada. So anyway, I'm just a little conflicted when you hear that he's this banker, this guy that, he's going to get us out of here. He's going to, fight Trump, and seemingly hasn't really done much there either. And,
well, I like that he, like in my, like the way I look at him, I see him as being strategic. So I like that he's going to Europe, a very natural ally for Canada, a natural ally for the States too.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all that he's.
Well, we're all allies. We're all NATO. Like I think people forget that.
Well, some people forget it.
Yeah.
I like that he's in India. So I think he is creating some new opportunities that are not going to transform our country overnight or anything like that.
We definitely have to become less reliant on some of the relationships that we have with some countries.
And recognize that hopefully this little thing with the U.S. is temporary and that nothing's permanent.
Well, so, how did the temperature just change? Like, anybody my mother's age and father's age and up, I find, and even trickling down into like some, I mean, it's a little bit across the board, and I hear people like, I'm never going to the States. It's like, guys, the American people aren't our enemy. It's the government, our governments that are in conflict. Like the people.
A very important point to make.
Yeah, like it's not the people. It's like, I'm not going to the States for vacation anymore. It's like, what? Like, they did nothing to us. The people themselves have done nothing to Americans and vice versa. Like, we have done nothing to them. I don't understand why all of a sudden, and then you see the Olympics. It's like everybody's all up in arms that a U.S. won. And it's like, yeah, cool. We definitely had that gold medal Olympic hockey stuff on lock for a long time. But I just don't, like, back to, like, people getting along and having an open dialect. Like, it's just disheartening to see people just hate on people because social media told them to, almost.
Well, and it's like Trump's actions have triggered like some real kind of emotions in us, and it is generational to your point. So like if the boomers, millennials care more about the issues with the U.S. than like Gen Zers do.
Yeah.
Because the Gen Zers are the ones that are right up against the financial
everything
pressures.
Else.
And, there is like a generational divide on who cares about that stuff and who doesn't.
For sure.
But I mean, I find like the Trump stuff with us infuriating, with Greenland, with
I mean, he's a lunatic.
It drives me nuts too. And
well, I think he's doing some good stuff, but like people just focus on the lunacy stuff that he, maybe like don't be such a goof and just be more presidential. Like, I don't know.
There's like, I think a lot of issues right now, like they're like disrupting.
Global economy,
an order of things that has been built to their advantage, which is crazy to me. I think there's enough evidence to suggest like the Trump empire is enriching itself too during this period.
Yeah,
which that's not good when that can happen.
Could argue that that's maybe a thing at like upper level politics is in general. Like, because listen,
in other countries, man, like,
but like I don't know, a lot of stuff about Brookfield too, like doesn't operate in Canada.
Yeah,
and
but
some people argue that some of the plays that Carney's making is enriching him too, So
I think like it's
not to get on a back and forth.
No,
on
I
that,
don't
but
care,
I'm just
man.
saying, like,
I
think it happens all around. Doesn't matter on the left or the right or the liberal or the conservatives or Democrats or the Republicans.
I think what's becoming apparent is Republican, Democrat, whatever. I think there's more like serious, obvious things happening with the Trump stuff, like in the crypto space. He kind of even projects it like we're going to bring kind of our business dealings into conversations with Russia. So I think there's like some real kind of obvious things there. And what's become apparent is like there's not really great protections in the U.S. system against somebody doing this stuff. There are better protections here in Canada. Like there's watchdogs, there's legislative frameworks that do protect like citizens, taxpayers from, like serious corrupt behavior. I also don't think like our, you've got immunity for what you say in our legislative chambers, but nothing would prevent, I think a prime minister. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but I think in our system, like you can be arrested if you break the law when you're in a leadership role.
Okay.
Where like because of the office of president, they don't allow. That can't happen. So there's better protections here. I think on that front, I think we've got all things considered, like a decent kind of system of voting, and it's not the
keeping
best,
our checks and balances, but
I think so. Yeah, and the opposition's like has power here, and they have legislative tools they can do their work too.
Yeah. So just like now, let's just drill back down into provincially. Don't you feel that it's a little odd that we have a conservative provincial government and that we have a federal liberal government? Like, do you find there's a bit of a disconnect in, like, why are we all in here? And a lot of places, too, kind of all went provincially blue, and then we're real red across the federal stuff. So it's like, do you find there's a bit of disconnect there? Like, well, how is that a thing?
It tends to be like,
or is it back to like, well, the person, you know, because you hear like people always like, well, you know, I like Zach, I'm going to vote for Zach. It's not about the party, it's about whatever Zach's going to do to help us. Like, I guess, and then some people, like for me, it's like, well, kind of the party, I think in the vision of the party for whether it's the province or the country, like, I feel like for me, that's kind of how you got to do it. But then some people want to vote for the person that they know and want to support. And then maybe they neglect that, maybe the direction that the overall party's going, maybe not the same or exactly what they thought, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right. So people vote for different reasons. They vote for party leaders that they like. They vote for parties whose philosophy, platform they like. And sometimes they vote for the person locally. But then all of a sudden, these big tides, these big moods come in that kind of take over, like what everyone's focused on. And there was a real kind of anti-Trudeau, anti-liberal wave during our last provincial election,
right?
And Premier Houston won a supermajority, and that probably would have continued across the country, and we wouldn't have a Liberal government today if there wasn't a change of leadership. Because then when you have Trump come in, Trudeau leave, Carney come in, then the whole federal political context changes like that.
It did.
And then there was this real pushback against, what I think Canadians perceived as kind of like Trump-like populist conservative politics in the country.
So, for the record, do you think Trump lost the Conservatives the election? Or do you think that's on Pierre? Because I hate that excuse. And I think Pierre's whole team just fucked up.
I mean...
They didn't pivot.
They didn't pivot. I don't know if they could have either.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. Like, did he put the dagger in the coffin? Like, did Trump screw, so I'll say that lightly, not that everybody agrees, but like, looked like it was going that direction on the polls. And then all of a sudden, nope.
His success was really built around the negativity around Trudeau's brand.
Yeah. I told the guys that I know that are super involved, it was just too like, I think I like Pierre too, but it's just like, hey man, let's just stop ripping on people and tell people what we're really going to do to fix stuff. Why don't you just stop this clown show? You're not a comedian. And it's like, oh well, and the guys are like, well, they need to have some banter in the House of Commons. Like, no, they don't. No, they don't.
So he's
be adults.
He's a great kind of antagonist.
Yeah, I just don't like those people.
So in that matchup, he's gonna probably win. Trudeau wanted to fight him out. They would have had it look like Poilievre would have beat Trudeau. Now you match kind of his style against Carney's, which is less political, and Carney brings this kind of like gravitas and a different look. He also eliminates some of the like policies that people are upset about, like the direct carbon tax. And you've got a whole different ballgame. And then you have, Trump threatening
our sovereignty.
Yeah, right. So I mean, you've got a.
Do you think he really meant any of that?
I mean, I don't know the man.
Yeah, of course, you can't really. Speculate.
I take what he says seriously. I mean, he's taking serious actions.
I wouldn't call his bluff, but I don't think he's going to invade Canada.
I don't think.
I don't think any.
That seems very unlikely to me. Now, will he?
Well, I know people that are like, oh yeah, he's coming. Like, like some of the older folks. Like, I won't name names, so I don't want anybody pissed off at me. But like, I had a pretty frank discussion with an older fella that was like very adamant.
I was worried about that.
That you did? Were you?
I mean, I'm not now.
Yeah.
But like when it first, I was like, what the hell is he gonna do?
Right.
But I think I think it's more of kind of economic warfare with us.
It is.
I'm gonna tariff your car manufacturers. I'm tariffing your forest sector.
Yeah.
Like he's put a pounding on a number of our key sectors that were built to deliver, to trade to the U.S.
Yeah.
And so like I don't see I mean, I would be totally shocked and surprised that there was like a military incursion here or Greenland.
I know guys in the military, they talk to their counterparts in the U.S. and they're like, you're our little brother, man. Like, we're not coming.
And the military's intertwined. The intelligence agencies are intertwined. So I think that's something. But I mean, what he's doing is kind of like economic warfare, if you want to call it.
Man, my buddy Captain Chambers was he's over at Maritime Helicopter. He's just over at NASA. He got treated like royalty. Like, there's no tension there.
Well, and I think importantly, the public doesn't want that to happen in the States. Thank God. Now, Now, if he had, if 80% of American voters wanted him to, would that change it?
Well, maybe.
But I mean, we've got like you said, we've got family connections.
We got too much common ground.
Oh my God, man! It's like we are kind of best. We have the largest, open border in the world, and the best trading. We've had the best trading relationship.
Yeah. And I know it's not North Canada, but we're called North America. It's almost like in the name, like we're one continent. It makes sense that we're working together.
Yeah, and I mean, I do worry about like the kind of three great powers, Russia, China, U.S., having this spherical kind of viewpoint. Like, okay, you look, Trump seems to have in their kind of documents and what he says, like a view that the Americas are ours. China, you got the Pacific. Russia, you've got Eastern Europe. I don't know. That stuff scares me. If we're ever in a situation where three great powers are carving up the world and deciding
for sure
what's happening to all of us, like middle powers who don't have a military to combat them. But
do you feel like we're going to turn that around? Because I feel like that's one of the things we really got to to be less reliant on other people. Don't we got to beef up our own defense?
Yeah, that's another thing I like that Carney's doing, right? That's not going to happen overnight, but Halifax stands to benefit a lot from those investments.
100%.
And I do think unfortunately, I think it's really important for Arctic sovereignty, for our value to the NATO alliance.
Because you look at the world on a globe, like Russia's right there in the north.
Yeah.
They can just, the people look at a map like flat. You got to put it on the globe.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping them.
No, and I think the risk to us would be more like on the cyber security front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, which is kind of like can be as scary. But no, I think those things are good that he's focused on. And I wish him kind of success because it can open up new opportunities for businesses here. Again, I think Nova Scotia, Halifax is going to benefit from the defense investments. We've got great products in forestry and seafood that can go all over the world, and and some critical minerals here. So we stand to benefit hopefully in this province if these policies are properly executed and these new trade works develop, and we do have more kind of resource production here and in the rest of the country.
I would agree 100%. And you know what? If you're a Canadian, even if you don't support Carney or you didn't vote for him, you're crazy to not hope that he's successful, because the success of our prime minister indicatively is the success of the Canadian people. So
here.
Yeah, we got to hope that he succeeds. So whether you vote for him or not, if you're a Canadian, you should hope that he succeeds. So
and he's less divisive than Trudeau would be for people to.
Absolutely. I can definitely get on board with that. 100%. For sure. Totally agree. I just want to dive into a little bit of the U.S. stuff. Like, do you think people understand what a tariff is? And do you think they understand the impact? Or do you just think like it's like, we're hurting the U.S., but like in all actuality, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but a U.S. tariff that we implement on the U.S. hurts the American consumer, and then Canadian tariffs, vice versa, that are implemented from the U.S. onto us hurt the Canadian consumer. And then obviously there's some, business issues too, but like that just, if your business is like, well, if you want to sell in America, it's going to cost you 10% more. It's like, cool, your consumer can pay it.
Well, this is the great irony of the Trump economic agenda is he got elected to bring prices down, and he's brought in the most inflationary policies he could have. And if you look at, I saw an interesting chart the other day on LinkedIn, because the U.S. is going through like serious inflation now too, and the stuff that's gone up the highest in in cost to American consumers, shockingly, are the things that Trump is putting tariffs on. So, I mean, he's got this policy that, will bring in more revenue to the U.S. Treasury, but is making goods that, I mean, the World Economic Order has been built so that people can get cheap consumer goods, right? And he's bringing in, basically a tax on anything that's imported into their country, and they import a lot of things from Canada, and that's driving costs up for these things. So I do think people generally get it as a tax, as something that increases inflation. Certainly the businesses that got to deal with it. I've got a client that's got hit, millions of dollars. They went from, profit to losing money because of these tariffs. So, I mean, the business people get it. And I think there's less and less support politically in the States for these tariffs too. The Supreme Court just told him he didn't have the legal right to
do these things.
So his position is
they just doubled down.
Yeah, and he'll try to do it another way. But I mean, it's down there. His position is weakening really quickly. Like he went from having a lot of support, and now like the ICE stuff, the tariffs, the focus on foreign policy intervention, like military interventions. This is upsetting people that were in his kind of voter coalition who
because we
put him in office again.
We support you, but we didn't support this.
This is the opposite of what he said. I mean, he said he's going to do tariffs, but he also said he's going to bring prices down for everybody.
Yeah. Because it's funny, like some of the stuff I see, you see people saying that like it's the best the economy's ever done, but then you're saying that they're suffering a bit more. So like, I guess that's where I don't know what to believe. Well, and that's why I had to take, like we talked a little bit a few weeks back, and I was like, I have to this is kind of the first time I've really dove back in a little bit, because I was like, fuck, man, this is messing with my head, man. I don't even know what's true, what's not. So I just think everybody's lying to me, online or whatever you read. So it's hard to know what is fact or fiction. And I think that's causing a lot of divide between people too.
Definitely. There's no like fake news spreads.
There's more fake news than real news.
Well, and it spreads more quickly than the real stuff.
Right.
So information's a big problem right now.
It's like the telephone game. You remember playing that as a kid?
Yeah.
Tell the one, you got 20 people are at a party, and you tell the first person the story, and the next person says it, and the next person, by the time it gets to the last one's not even close.
Yeah. And then you add like the issue with like confirmation bias. So if you believe that whether it's the World Economic Forum that's kind of ruining the world, or whatever the theories are out there, you are going to get that information fed to you, and not opposite information in your social media feeds, because that's what the algorithms.
Well, I'll be honest, my feed's like, can't have carnies, a World Economic guy, they're going to destroy everything.
Right. Mine's the opposite.
I had to reset everything.
Yeah, mine's the opposite. So, and I think to your point about like, well, what's true, or some people being impacted negatively, or some being impacted by, I mean, that it's all true. Some people are benefiting greatly from the current situation, and others in certain sectors are being negatively impacted. So consumers, I think, are being negatively impacted in the States. Any businesses in Canada that's exporting to the States is being impacted. Like the auto sector,
definitely huge
in Ontario, is undergoing like an existential crisis.
The Chinese EV mandate is not great for Ontario's automotive industry either.
And I mean, I don't know unless we.
Well, at least that's what I heard they're being vocal about, but
because that means that we're giving up on the American one, I think, but. I don't know. We'll have to see how that stuff pans out.
I don't know either.
Trump's trying to ruin the auto sector so those manufacturing jobs go back to the States. Although the interesting thing too is like there's again, the information I'm getting suggests that like there really hasn't been a big boon in manufacturing to the U.S. either. So I don't know. I think
it's not helping anything.
I think a lot of people are being impacted in very different ways right now. Like if you're like we said earlier, if you own stocks, if you own real estate, and you still have your job, you're doing pretty good right now. If you're on the line, at the Ford and Chevy auto plants in the States, and you're 24 and haven't bought a house yet and haven't started your family yet, the situation looks a lot different.
Yes.
It's a big complicated challenges affecting a lot of people in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One more politics thing, and then we're going to dive in a little bit to your business. And I know we're a little bit over what I usually keep, but I've really been enjoying this conversation.
Thanks,
so
man.
I've
Me
been
too, Chris,
wanted to extend it out a little bit. Where do you feel like our current provincial government is doing well, and maybe a couple places where you feel like Tim is falling short a little bit? Because we just seen the did you see the reel? We got booed downtown about cutting the I think it was the bus passes for students.
Yeah.
So that's obviously one thing that people aren't happy about, and blanket bans. I will say I'm not for that across any government. I don't think you're in charge of telling me how to run my life. But anyway, that's my opinions. What do you feel like in today's landscape? Like, are we doing the right stuff? Are they, I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel about the wind? I'm not a big wind guy. I did do some research, and it does show that where they're planning to build this wind farm generally gets more wind than at least on land. And I will say that if it brings investment to Nova Scotia, I'm down for that. But I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, I guess, because, all the windmills down in Pumlico, I don't know what's really been positive about that. So anyway, I'm just curious to get your outlook on, some aspects since he come into, I guess, power. I hate that word, but come into.
Yeah, that's what it is, though.
Yeah, come into power.
So I think there is a good focus on resources, and again, I support sustainable resource development because we're rich with them, whether it's seafood, resources, or
can we really count? Can we really count the wind in there? So we don't own the wind.
I mean, listen, I'm not an expert in that either, but I mean, there's I've read reports that say we have a lot of wind. Now, the costs of developing offshore wind seem to be really, really high.
You must have heard of Landman.
They're not. I don't know many jurisdictions that have had a pile of success with offshore wind. I think the Scandinavian countries have done pretty good there, but I really don't know at the end of the day. So,
is that kind of one of the dices you're willing to roll to see, or are you kind of?
I'm not anti wind generation now.
I'm not really anti. I'm just failing to see what you read is like.
I was at an announcement last week. With Dan Roscoe, they've got the ability now to compete directly with Nova Scotia Power with wind generated energy.
Okay.
What was expressed at the announcement was that they could offer rates to commercial customers and residential customers at better competitive rates. So that's exciting. I mean, that brings if you can generate wind energy and compete with Nova Scotia Power and have alternative sources that are.
You give me a better rate, I'll jump ship tomorrow.
So I think that's really good. I was happy to see that.
I think that monopolies overstayed their welcome, in my opinion.
Well, man, power rates are really high right now. There is no competition, and I, as a free market guy, I think more competition is always good for prices.
Yeah, for sure.
I support that project. I don't have enough information on offshore stuff to know what the costs are pretty high. How much is going to come from overseas? How much is going to come from the public? Those are big questions. I like what the provincial government has done. We did a pilot project on expanding scope of practice for pharmacists on the healthcare side.
Yeah, they can kind of subscribe some stuff, and
they put that on steroids and went for it. And we now have a lot more places like a City Drug in Yarmouth.
Yeah.
Shoppers Drug Mart in other places of the province where you can go and get your prescriptions renewed if you don't have a family doctor. You can get swabbed for strep throat, stuff that you shouldn't have to go to the emergency room for.
Yeah.
So that stuff's been really good. But I'm a Liberal, so I can't say too many good things, right?
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair.
And he's got a tough budget right now. Like, he's had to make some tough decisions. They've lost some income with the HST cut of 1% with the toll bridges that tolls that they're covering.
I was kind of surprised that went, but because I was like, where's the money coming from after?
Well, that was coming from, programs and grants.
Okay.
So that's why they're taking some heat right now from, kind of the arts and culture sector.
Right, because they got to cut somewhere, and the friggin' arts and culture is probably the first place they go. Yeah. Yeah. What's your opinion? Like, anyway, again, like probably getting fed different stuff. And I know we breezed on it there a while back. What's your opinion on like the nuclear direction that, seemingly some of the federal folks have been kind of chattering about? And I think New Brunswick's kind of into that. Ontario's talking about it. I know there's been a nuclear reactor in New Brunswick for some time, and there's a couple in Ontario. And actually, a lot of our unbestowed to people that are super anti-nuclear, there actually is a significant portion of our grid that is powered by nuclear. And I guess like I want to believe that we have improved since all these disasters where people were more powered by money and cut corners, like Chernobyl, Fukushima, all these like super horrendous disasters that I hope never happen again. But I think it's all been to the power of like money and profit.
And technology's improved too, and safety measures have improved, right? If you bought a car in the 80s and 90s, it was less safe.
Yeah, and then even before that, they didn't have airbags.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and the development of like the small small modular nuclear reactor?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing about. Like something the size of a car that can power 15,000 houses.
I think those are good things to pursue. France is doing it. I think they're doing well with it, as far as I know. Again, as a layperson on that issue, but I think there's a big there is a generational divide on like people's concerns
because they just think Chernobyl's happening again.
People that
think Fukushima's happening again.
People that kind of
they think we're start having kids with 14 arms and like a
like
a thumb in their forehead. Yeah,
the Simpsons, right?
Nuclear Simpsons, right?
I think the safety standards, technology has improved, and I mean, you can, if you care about getting off of fossil fuels, I don't know if you can do it without nuclear. I mean, you might be able to, but it's got to be part of the equation.
It's got an expiry date. The pushback I get from one of my buddies, he's like, "Oh, what are you going to do with the waste?" Da 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 da. And like, that's all fair points. But he's failing to listen to any of the new stuff that's come out, or how they're enriching this, how it's got these. Again, I'm not a nuclear physicist. I just know what I listen to, like the whatever coding they have around the uranium pellets, and do you listen to the Sean Ryan show at all?
No,
he's like an ex-CIA Navy SEAL guy. Definitely on the probably further to the side that maybe you're not a super fan of, or I don't know how right he is, but he's definitely over there. He had a guy on anyway, he used to be a Wall Street guy, and he got into nuclear, built some businesses, and they have like one of these like modular nuclear units that they actually have underground next to like a university dormitory, because it's like walkaway safe, they're calling it. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, it's a pretty prestigious university. I just can't recall. I was just listening to it this morning on the way in, trying to finish it up. And yeah, they say that like they built it literally next to these dormitories. They've done all the science, all the testing, and there's no, call it nuclear fallout or radiation to affect anything. And they're pretty like bullish on that. But then depending on who you talk to, it's like, well, no, like it's probably not good. Because what if something happens? It's always like, what if? And it's like, fair enough.
At the end of the day, you've got to go through pretty rigorous environmental assessments to do anything. Yeah.
I don't think they'd put it underground next to a school if they didn't think they were right.
No. So, I mean, I think there's...
But people have been wrong before.
Yeah, and accidents happen, or corners get cut sometimes too. But I mean, I think like on the macro level, I think there's great potential there.
Yeah. Cool.
I invest in that space. Like, this is my self-directed investing stuff.
There you go. Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I think we got, fossil fuels got an expiry date. I mean, it's going to be beyond our existence, but eventually we got to have some alternate resource, and also like different forms of fuel, of power, of ways to power the world, our economies.
Well, we're not going to want to give up energy.
No, yeah.
I don't want to give it up.
Not me neither.
I like lights.
Neither.
I like electricity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down
like
for
heat.
roughing it once in a while too, but we just bought a cottage there in the new year, and it's got a wood stove, and I'm all over that because I grew up with one, and so there's some nostalgia there, but then that's a whole different thing. But still got lights and a septic system and 2 toilets.
Yeah. So we're not giving up energy. No. So you gotta have alternative sources. Yeah. And you can get a lot of energy from nuclear power.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully at not the risk of everybody's health and well-being, but, I guess we'll see what happens in that space. Let's get into a little bit of life after politics, and then I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a dinner, but we got here a little bit earlier, so I took the liberty of stretching it out because I had some other questions I wanted to talk. So, like stepping away from elected office, you ran for the leadership position. Unfortunately, we're not successful, but that's fine. I think this opened up new doors, new opportunities. So why don't we dive into a little bit more of like what your consulting practice or business does, who you support, and whatever you can tell a little bit about us.
And you're so kind to say I stepped away. I got defeated. I led our party to the most historic defeat we've ever had in Nova Scotia, and lost my own seat too.
Yeah,
by 16 votes though. So but I had a good run. I really have no regrets about it. Enjoyed it overall.
Good.
And was ready to accept whatever the outcome.
Yeah, I don't think it was a you thing. I think it was just a.
I've won elections where there was more like animosity toward me. So
yeah,
it was. I
wouldn't take it personally.
I didn't take it personally, and don't. And I'm very happy about how things have worked out. Yeah. I've had more time with my kids this last year.
It's everything, man.
Man, you've got a little.
I used to think in my 20s. I've said it a few times on the show, but like me and Caitlin were like, we're not gonna have kids. They're too expensive, and I'll be honest. That was kind of the message that was getting shoved down our throats a little bit. Like, why do you have kids? They're too expensive. Cost around $250,000 in the lifetime of a kid. And we're like, we're gonna travel, spend our money, do whatever, live this like lavish life, and we didn't do any of it. And all of a sudden, our friends start having kids, and we're like getting involved, and we're like, man, this doesn't look that bad. And who's gonna take care of me when I'm old? Selfishly,
man, I don't think I knew true love until I met my daughters.
Full stop.
So just the best.
When you held them for the first time, or at least for me, and then I know she couldn't see me, but like I looked at her and she was pretty wide-eyed when she come. I was just like, now I understand why I'm here. Like the meaning of life is a whole lot different.
And like my kids are soon to be 7 and 9, and I can have a conversations with them.
Right.
And their personalities are developing. I'm more connected with them than I've ever been.
Because you're home.
I'm home. I'm not on the road I'm on the road a bit.
Right.
But
do you regret that some a little bit? Do you feel like?
No, I don't regret it. I mean, we made it work, and
everybody was very supportive at home.
And my wife was awesome. She would put the kids in the car and drive to Sydney from Yarmouth to meet me there if I couldn't get home on the weekend. Like, just a trooper.
Sounds like a good lady.
She's the best decision I ever made was asking her to marry me, for sure. I don't know if it was her best decision to say yes.
I would say the same thing. But they do say the most important decision that you make in life is who you're going to marry, who your spouse is.
I love her. The most important decision I've ever made, the best decision ever.
And since we're pumping up our wives, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. And I know I'm not like, I grew up pretty rough, like, fishing with dad, and like emotions and feelings weren't really, taken into consideration that much. And I probably don't say it enough, but, and I'm not perfect either. And I'm sure some days, maybe even with you, like we're tough to deal with, and we got a lot of stuff on the go, and we're ambitious people, but, to have that support at home, I think makes it possible.
Yeah. And I'll be the worst to the people I love the most, unfortunately. Yeah. But she even puts up with that.
Yeah, I know. Same. Because she'll, unfortunately at home sometimes you drag some stuff with you, and you got to work through it. And, it is what it is. I think we all
You got a great podcast here. I mean, you do like therapy, talk about like science, politics, real estate, everything.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm a pretty open book. Like, I'm happy to tell you what I think about things and how I feel about stuff. You don't have to believe what I believe, and most definitely, don't have to feel what I feel, but, if you ask and you want to know, I'll tell you. I'm not, it's like real estate. Like I'm not the top, but like I'm getting there. But like, just yesterday I had a new agent come in, wanted to talk to me about, listing presentations, how to go about it, kind of struggling a little bit, like with, different people, support. And, I don't hold cards close to my chest. I'll tell you everything. You got to go do it. Here it is. Here's the framework. Go do it. It's like, I'm in jiu-jitsu, and Marcelo Garcia was one of the first guys to start putting his like game on video tutorial. And people are like, "Oh man, you're competing at Worlds like soon. Like, what, aren't you worried people are just going to watch your stuff and come like beat you?" And he's like, "Sure. If you think you can learn my game better than me in the whatever amount of weeks leading up to this World Championship, fill your boots. I hope you show up, because I know how good I know my game. Yeah. And I don't think you're going to come and be able to beat it." So, like, I'm happy to tell people everything.
Yeah.
There's no secrets. Why would you?
I feel like that's like part of the culture.
You got to bring it. You got to bring people with you.
Yeah, it's part of the culture, like in the East Coast too. Like, we're pretty frank, kind of open people with a lot of candor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why hide who you are?
Yeah. So it's actually been a great year family wise. It's been a great year professionally. So I have started a new consulting business. I have a partner. We're called Churchill Sinclair. We do corporate services. So we do government relations lobbying for businesses. So companies that have to deal with government regulations or are looking for, funding, have big economic projects. We work on that. I do more of the government relations stuff. Jordan does communications and marketing. He works with a lot of startup businesses.
Okay. Is it exclusive to the Yarmouth region, South Shore? Is it
No,
like Nova Scotia, Canada-wide? Like, how big are you going to go?
Like, our clients right now are all in provincial? Not all of them, but mostly here in Nova Scotia. I've had a couple clients from home.
Cool.
Yeah, and done some kind of interesting work. But yeah, so that's what we're doing, and we're both doing it on our own. And I played golf with them last summer. Jordan's a great golfer, and I just said, why don't we do something together? So we worked on creating an agency, giving more services, GR, government relations, lobbying services, and also communications and marketing services.
Man, if you guys like golf, you guys should put a team into our IWK charity golf tournament coming up.
I'd love to. Send me the information.
I will.
Yeah. We'll put a team in, if we can.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's pretty reasonable. We get a foursome together. I think it's like $1,200 or something.
I've been able to golf again after getting out of politics.
Yeah. I use that term loosely. I like to golf. I don't know if I can say I can, but
I played. I finally got on the golf course again for the first time in 15 years. So it's been a great transition, man. I really embraced it, and have had a very kind of happy year where we just get to focus on what we want to do as a family, and the business challenge has been fun to get clients, give them good service, and I still get to work on the periphery of politics and try to influence decisions. And I work on projects that I care about that I think are important to our economy, our communities, and so it's still meaningful, fun work for me too.
Good, man. Good. That's amazing. Looking back, I guess, is there anything that, you're the most proud of, whether it's in your political career, starting this new venture, and maybe you can give us a little bit of optimism about Nova Scotia's future, like, leave us on a good note. What do you feel like, is on the horizon for us here? Like,
I think there's incredible opportunities here. There's going to be tough days for some people. We're going to continue to, I think, be challenged by the tariffs coming out of the U.S. That does impact our economy here.
I'm confident that's going to end here soon. Like, somebody's going to put a spoke in the tires here.
Let's hope. And I like looking at the stock market. There's these what seem to be really big crashes in the moment where things are bad and look tough. But if history is anything, we're going to go through some tough periods, but overall, hopefully,
always ends up on the up.
Hopefully, I mean, that's not always guaranteed, but the past gives us reason to be optimistic about the future.
Yeah, man. I've said it a bunch of times. I don't have a crystal ball, but you got to remain optimistic. Whether you voted for who you voted for, you got to believe in Canada's success and obviously the world's future. So just wanted to thank you, Zach. This has been a great conversation. Really enjoyed our time together. I think you're a great fella, and I wish you all the success in your new business venture, and hopefully we have some more stuff to talk about down the road. And it's always nice to share a conversation with somebody that I think we have a lot in common, but we also have some differing of opinions as well. So, and I think that's what makes the world go round. And I think people got to get back to realizing that we got to team up instead of tear each other down because we don't believe in the one thing that we decide is important to us.
Here, man. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You too.